What's the matter with Henry? One morning, the Fat Controller went to see Thomas at Knapford. I want you to go to Crovensgate's workshop and collect 2 new coaches, he said to the blue tank engine. New coaches? Pondered Thomas. Are they for a new service, sir? It's a surprise, he said. Take them straight to Wellsworth. Thomas smiled and set off. Meanwhile, Emily was enjoying working on Edward's branch line and loved her new jobs. There was only one thing she didn't like. Bill and Ben are tank engine twins that work for the China Clay Company and love to play tricks on other engines. For the past couple of days they've been teasing Emily. Those two won't stop, Emily said to Boko. They make jokes about me every time they see me. Don't worry, said Boko. I or Edward will speak to them about this. Just then Henry arrived at the docks and stopped near them both. Hello, Henry, said Boko. What are you doing here? There's a large order of China clay needed to be delivered to Barrow, said Henry. So the Fat Controllers asked me to help to collect them. I can help too, offered Emily, if you like. Yes, please, replied Henry. I don't feel too good and could use the help. I'll have to look at you later, boy, said his driver. Right now we need to get your tender refilled. So Henry set off to have his tender refilled with water. But Emily saw that Henry was leaving a puddle of water behind. I'm worried about Henry, said Emily. Perhaps his tubes are leaking, replied Boko. You better check. So Emily went to find Henry. Unfortunately, Bill and Ben had overheard them, and they had a naughty plan. Bill and Ben went straight back to the quarry and spoke to their manager. Please, sir, said Bill. Henry wants to take more trucks. He is bigger, added Ben. The manager agreed and the 2 twins set to work shunting. When Henry reached the quarry later, he found Ben next to a line of 7 trucks. Are these my trucks? Asked Henry. Yes, replied Ben. Couple up to the front of the train. Bill's just bringing your brake van. So Henry coupled up to the front of the train. But what he and his crew didn't see was that Bill shunted the brake van and 7 extra trucks onto his train, making Henry's train twice as long and twice as heavy. Henry started but felt the weight on his coupling. They only got out of the quarry when Henry started to struggle. Driver, this train is heavy, said Henry. I'm not surprised, said the fireman looking back. Those twins have shunted all the trucks to you. Oh no, Henry cried. I don't feel well enough to take all these trucks. You'll have to, I'm afraid, said his driver. Maybe we can split the train at Brendam. So Henry chuffed and puffed and pulled his long line of trucks. You can do it, Henry, encouraged his driver. But it was no use. Henry ground to a halt. Soon Emily arrived. Are you all right, Henry? No, moaned Henry. I need help, please. Of course I'll help you, answered Emily. We should be able to take your train to Wellsworth together. So Emily coupled up to Henry and the 2 engines pulled the long heavy train. They soon reached Wellsworth Yard. Oh, thank you, Emily, wheezed Henry. Just then they saw the Fat Controller walking up to them. Yes, well done, Emily, he said. Thank you, sir. Then he spoke to Henry. You were brave, Henry, he said. You weren't well, but you still tried to pull the heavy train. I'm arranged Bear to take your goods train to Barrow, and you'll go straight to the works for repairs. Thank you, sir, said a very relieved Henry. Later that day, Emily was called back to Wellsworth Yard to see the Fat Controller. She found him on the siding with Thomas and 2 green coaches. Emily, you have proven yourself to be a very useful engine and a hard worker, said Sir Topham Hatt. It gives me great pleasure to present you with 2 new coaches. Thank you, sir, replied Emily. This should save any future mix-up, joked Thomas, and the two friends laughed. Since that day, Emily has worked hard on the Brendan branch line, and she loves her two coaches, called Amelia and Eliza. And since that day, she's made sure Bill and Ben will never tease her again. They know better than to mess with Emily now.